Hello, everyone. I'm just going to give this a go. I don't know anything about shooting videos, but it has been brought to my attention by several people whose opinion matters that I should put myself out there and start making some videos, some time lapses of my art, because people enjoy seeing those reels. They like seeing art made. So I figured that the best way to start would be just to take a quick little awkward video of me introducing myself and talking about what it is I do. My name is Alexander. I have been a painter for most of my life. I attended art school in East Tennessee for 6 years, pursuing a bachelor's of fine arts with an intensive in painting. And then by accident along the way, I picked up a secondary focus in ancient history a with an intensive on Abrahamic and pre Abrahamic faiths, the history of Christianity, and the ancient world, specifically revolving around Greece, Rome, ancient Egypt. All of that fun, nerdy stuff that only people like me really get down with, doing hours and hours of research and papers on. But my primary love has always been art creation in any of its facets, anything I can learn, any kind of skill I can pick up in that department. I have always either consciously or subconsciously done it. I tried out performing arts for a while. Nothing ever really official. I did some plays. I used to perform. I used to sing. I don't really do the singing thing anymore, and the reason for that is because, well, I'm transgender. And when I started undergoing HRT and my voice changed, everything that I had previously learned about singing went with it. And I am still 4 years later trying to reteach my vocal cords how to do the things that they used to do within the new range that I now possess, which is a lot lower than the soprano I used to be. This painting, like a lot of the work that I do, speaks to my journey on my transition, and that's why I felt it was relevant to mention that I am a member of the transgender community, because it bleeds into my art, whether consciously or subconsciously, and it has been doing that far longer than my understanding of myself has existed. I can look back over work that I've been doing for the last 15, 20 years and recognize now that the themes present in my work were me attempting to understand myself and what it was about myself that stood out so differently to me and was caused such a struggle for me, especially in my younger years. I grew up in a conservative household, and realistically, the areas I grew up were in the country. They were very Christian predominant. And the concept of a trans man didn't exist in my world when I was growing up. You heard of quote unquote cross dressers, and that's what they referred to transgender women as, even though that's an incorrect term. So, growing up, the only thing I had ever been exposed to as a concept was that there were men who would wear women's clothing. And there were never any really positive opinions about those individuals either. The concept of a woman wearing man's clothing, well, you were either a lesbian or you were a quote unquote tomboy. And that is what I was called for a very long time, because even as a 3-year-old child, I wanted to wear overalls. I chopped my long hair off, much to my mother's dismay. Um, my friends were boys. I did all the things that boys, quote unquote, stereotypically did out in the country. I never had a lot of interest in what girls in my age group were interested in, what they found fun to do. That just wasn't vibing with me at the time. But so as a result, I always knew I didn't quite fit in, and I'm sure, a lot of people relate to that in one facet or another. So I spent a lot of time on my own. I read a lot, and I drew a lot, and I did a lot of writing starting very young, even though those topics tended to stick more with the supernatural, the paranormal, creatures that didn't exist in any capacity. I'm working on this piece. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing with it while I'm talking to you, and generally just getting the feel of using a camera and a setup, and I'm quite certain that the angle is awful, the lighting could probably be better, but these are things I'll figure out as I go along, so be patient with me. I am 100% noob at this. I have a long way to go before I will be even a little bit graceful or look like I know what I am doing with all of this. But anyway, so a lot of my drawings and paintings had a lot of just an unnamed struggle to them. I was very avoidant on work that focused on myself. If you have any artist friends, odds are at some point every single one of us has done a ton of self-portraits simply because we're free, we're always available, and we'll do whatever we tell ourselves to do. And so it just keeps the process a lot simpler, especially when it's 2 a.m. and you can't sleep and you decide that you're going to do a painting to practice your technique and need a model. But I avoided a lot of that. And then when I was in college and was starting to study portraiture and figure work, self-portraits were not only normal, they were often assignments that we had to complete. And so I entered a phase of where at that point in time, I often wore masks. I would wear Venetian masks that completely blocked out the parts of my face that I felt uncomfortable with. And I created, a visual narrative through that. And, well, there went that. And just avoided having to really look at myself dead on. And then that progressed to whenever I would do a self-portrait that included my face, I would distress the textures, I would block out things, I would subconsciously render myself to look more masculine than I actually did at the time. I would exaggerate features so that it was almost to the point of distortion, even though I had been, trained and had the ability to do lifelike renderings of myself. And looking back on all of that now, it makes a lot of sense. And so as I'm introducing myself to you guys and discussing what I do, it's important for me to mention the element of being trans because it's an epiphany to me how present it is in my work. And now, 4 years on my journey, it's still a common theme in what I do because, just starting transition in HRT, it's not the magic fix all for a trans person, especially those of us who are starting transition later in life, like myself. I'm 39 years old. I was 35 when I began HRT, so I definitely got a late start. And the HRT is wonderful. It has taken me so much further on my journey than originally I'd ever hoped to get. And I am much happier with myself and more comfortable in my skin than I ever would have been without the implementation of HRT. But there's still a lot of inner struggle. It's a matter of having to marry the reality that while I feel more comfortable in my skin than I used to, I'm never going to reach the ideal of what I want to be. And that's a huge part for a lot of us who are trans, is that we have to come to terms with that we will never achieve exactly where it is we want to be on a transition level, especially those of us who are starting later in life. We can get really close, but we just have to accept what our own limitations are going to be with that and learn to find peace with ourselves and happiness with ourselves at that place. And that's a struggle for me. It's a struggle, I think, for many of us, whether we talk about it or not openly, especially outside of our communities and other people who are experiencing the same journey. It's difficult to talk about. It's hard putting yourself out there to be vulnerable, to be open to judgment or ridicule or people making light of what it is that you're dealing with every day as you look in the mirror, as you get ready for work. This piece specifically is, the working title is You're Trying Your Best. It's a female figure, but the way that she's curled in on herself is she's still protecting herself. There's a vulnerability there. There's almost a sense, at least to me as the artist currently creating this, that there's a sense of defeat, of sadness, of struggle, and I've been through a lot in the last year that's not directly related to my transition. I won't get into the details of that here, maybe later on. But it's weighed heavily on me. It's brought the things that I struggle with and work on accepting about myself into a more unrelieved and uncomplimentary focus for me. And I don't know if that's, I think that's just what we do. When things are going bad, it makes us pay more attention to everything that we may not be thrilled with about ourselves. But art's very therapeutic for that for me. It's always been where I go, what I fall back on, because growing up, when there was a lot of things I didn't understand and really no one I felt like I could talk to about a lot of it without religious views I didn't really share being brought into it or things of that nature. There was always a respite to be found in painting, in writing. And so that's what I'm falling back on now. And there's a joy that always comes with it, and knowing that the things that you do, there are other people, that you're not alone. You're not the only person that deals with the struggles that you are encountering. There's always going to be a world of individuals that are on the same type of road you are. And even if you can't reach out or find them at that moment, they're there. And so someone down the line may look at this painting when it's finished on the internet, or if someone buys it and it's hanging in their home, someone may see it and it may resonate with them to where they are right now in their journey. And while the message may not be the exact same, that's the beauty of art, is that it's open to interpretation. It's there for everyone's spirit and experience to lend its narrative to the story that you yourself as the artist was telling. So while it may not be the exact same struggle that you have, this may speak to someone else and theirs. And that's why I always feel it's important for everyone to create, maybe not paint, but everyone has talent, everyone has that ability. And to me, it's important to put that out there into the world, whatever it is, no matter what your skill level is, because there are others whose stories will resonate in whatever it is you create, whether it's music, drawing, painting, a story you write, if a dance that you choreograph, whatever it might be. There's someone out there that's going to speak to them on their journey and in their narrative, and make them feel, maybe, hopefully, a little bit less alone. But I think that that's enough for a first video. Hopefully the angle let you see part of what I was doing as I was talking to you. I'll post more as I go along, as I get more comfortable with the equipment, the sound of my own voice echoing in an empty room. I'm going to work on figuring out how to do some time-lapse videos, because I've been told that people really enjoy watching the fast-forward version of art being created as well. So I have a long way to go. We'll see where it goes. I'm not going to give up. And I will see you guys in the next video.